In this video, I'm going to be philosophizing on irrationalities of God-gods, intrinsic to issues concerning superstitions and or supernaturalisms. Most concern the non-existência of God-gods, lacking intrinsic processes and or intrinsic properties. Within the absent space, one truly may never infer certain intrinsic processes and or intrinsic process properties needed to constitute valid and or psychological true and or meaningful descriptions in order to establish certain internal and or external characteristics meaningful to constitute the intrinsic processes and or intrinsic properties proportionate to what is sensible to coherently and or cogently communicate with clarity, to hold more objectivity than subjectivity in one's directly and or indirectly associative analytic meaning interpretations, without vaguenesses and or mischief within one's superstitious and or supernatural thinking, as individuals are more likely to commit crimes for irrationalities, not truly reasons. Meaning, to constitute a reason, one's thinking should be valid and or hold ultimate psychological truths of existencia, connecting certain subjectivo objectivo relacionáveis, meaning subjectivity to objectivity, meaning one whom is engaging pure subjectivity, thus dogmas and or assumptions derived from the non-existencia of God-gods, is responsible for uniquely making things up and or engaging certain assumptions within one's subjectivity irrationally for no reason. Or one may think one holds a reason, yet the reason is truly invalid and therefore not a reason. Engaging irrationalities responsible for crimes and or misconducts that are more likely to be the resultants of the disease of criminality and or psychiatric illness from perceiving the non-existencia of God-gods, and from certain inferences thinking one may be communicating directly to gods and or gods, and or maybe revolting against gods and or gods. In some cases are the faux atheists, whom are so truly confused and or suffering from a mental illness in terms of thinking one's disputes with a non-existent entity, in this case God, one may lash out nihilistically, claiming there is no God and or gods, and thus engage in certain misconducts in terms of one's future-oriented thinking, that the unfairness one is experiencing within one's existencia is a resultant of the non-existencia of gods and or God, one within the nihilistic irrationalities is unable to hold the meaningful distinction within one's thinking, that one may think that they truly think there is a God-gods, yet claim superficially God-gods to be non-existent. without the appropriate rational excuses and or justifications to appropriately justify one's thinking in terms of the existencia of God, to mean that the onus of proof is on the individual whom is perceiving the non-existencia of God-gods to hold an existence. Be it there is a God-gods, there should be an existence proof. Therefore, to constitute the existencia of as existence proof God-gods existingly holds valid and or psychological true intrinsic processes and or intrinsic properties they truly may never hold, constituting irrationalities within the thinking of the individual whom is deeply suffering from never truly a reason, yet irrationalities, whom engages certain misconducts from the fallacious and or erroneous thinking, in many cases appealing to emotion and or certain straw man fallacies to conflate distinct targets of one's direct perception with the need to lash out on existencia nihilistically, that derives mostly from irresponsibility in terms of engaging the self-regulations of one's negative, meaningful emotions in order to satisfy certain unmet, essential and or necessitated psychological needs inappropriately, and who may engage often in substance abuse disorders that result from substance abuse. Individuals whom tend to be more religious, engaging in more crime and or misconducts, are more likely to resort mostly to alcohol. That is the best predictor of serious violent crime, including reckless driving, which most likely are the individuals whom engage the irrationalities, claiming to others they lack belief and or thinking a God-gods exist, yet engage in certain misconducts willfully to attempt to prove to the non-existencia of the God and or gods they claim not to think exist, yet truthfully think hold an existencia somewhat in relation to truthfully the non-existencia of certain non-existent intrinsic processes and or intrinsic properties, often failing to constitute a certain intrinsic process and or intrinsic property meaningful to constitute meaningful navigations within reason. That's all I want to say for this video. Hope you have an awesome one. Keep moving after that.